Thousands of people say a popular weed killer is making them sick.
Roundup is the target of several cancer lawsuits, some even claiming it caused the death of their loved ones. I-Team reporter Brian New digging into these claims. He joins us with what we all need to know.
Yeah, the only warning that you're going to find on a bottle of Roundup is that it may cause eye irritation. That's it. But the state of California wants this warning to also include that it may cause cancer. A North Texas woman told us she believes that's what happened to her.
As a nurse for nearly 20 years.
Oh, it was definitely a calling.
Angie Dyer says she was born to be a caretaker.
I knew from the time I was probably old enough to walk and talk that that's what I wanted to do.
So 2 years ago, when doctors told her she had a rare form of cancer,
I couldn't believe it.
her life flipped upside down.
To the point now, I'm the one that someone has to help. It's devastating because I can't do the job that I was doing, and I mean, it pretty much shut me down.
Angie's cancer is known as double-hit non-Hodgkin's large B-cell lymphoma.
It is a very big mouthful, a big name for a big cancer.
Intense chemotherapy has kept Angie alive, but it's taken a toll on her body. She now requires a cane, can't feel her feet,
I fall a lot.
and her memory has deteriorated.
Yeah, that's, it's pretty hard.
But Angie says the hardest part is she believes her cancer was preventable, which is why, along with hundreds of others, Angie is part of one of the class action lawsuits against the maker of Roundup. The lawsuits claim the active ingredient in Roundup, known as glyphosate, causes cancer.
This was our dream when we bought this place.
Angie says for a 22-year period while living on hay farms in Navarro County, she used Roundup a lot. She would fill this tank up several times a week and spray Roundup along the fence line.
At the time, you didn't really think much of it.
No, because it said it was safe.
Angie's case against Roundup is based on this 2015 finding from the International Agency for Research on Cancer, also known as IARC. It's a division of the World Health Organization. It found glyphosate is probably carcinogenic to humans.
Does glyphosate in Roundup cause cancer?
No, Brian, it doesn't.
The I-Team traveled to St. Louis, Missouri, the headquarters of Monsanto, the maker of Roundup, and sat down with Vice President Scott Partridge.
Glyphosate has been around for about 40 years. It has a record of safe use over those 4 decades and has been the most studied agricultural chemical in history.
Partridge says the government agencies who are in charge of making sure the chemicals we put on our yards are safe do not agree with IARC's findings that glyphosate is a danger.
And not a single one of those studies has associated glyphosate with cancer, not one.
And that includes the EPA. But according to court documents, the plaintiff's lawyers say the EPA's conclusion that glyphosate is safe only came after pressure from Monsanto. One lawsuit even accuses the company of ghostwriting safety studies on glyphosate. In an email the I-Team obtained from court filings, one top executive from Monsanto wrote about us doing the writing, and they would just edit and sign their names, referring to the research firm.
That sounds like an admission of ghostwriting.
Yeah, it's an inappropriate way to refer to the work that was done.
Are you saying that that was a poorly worded email?
Yes, it was. Poorly worded email, and the term ghostwriting is not one that should be used in this context.
The EPA originally classified glyphosate as a possible cause of cancer in 1985. Then changed its mind 6 years later, reclassifying it as safe. But not every scientist agrees with this. In this 2013 letter submitted as evidence to the court, a former EPA scientist of 30 years wrote, "It is essentially certain that glyphosate causes cancer." That scientist, who was sick and dying at the time, went on to write, "I don't want these serious issues to go unaddressed before I go to my grave." The EPA told the I-Team it looked carefully at this letter, but after reviewing 200 studies, concludes glyphosate is not a cause of cancer.
Cancer took my mother. I know what it's like. I know what it can do to families. But there's no medical evidence whatsoever that glyphosate causes cancer.
I laid there a lot thinking about, I may not see my family anymore. I may not see my grandbabies. And it's hard laying there thinking that you may not ever see them again.
Angie has been in remission for more than a year. She beat the odds, but doctors told her eventually not only will her cancer likely come back,
It will come back with a vengeance.
and that's something she says you can never not get off your mind.
It's always there, yeah. But I do fairly well. I do fairly well with what I'm left with.
Now, while we do not know what caused Angie's cancer, the EPA is currently reevaluating the safety of glyphosate. The EPA says this is routine, something it does every 15 years. Also, this week, Texas Representative Lamar Smith sent out this letter to IARC, questioning the organization's integrity and asking for names that he may call to testify at a congressional hearing. And remember, IARC is the international organization that concluded that glyphosate is probably a cause of cancer.